What's up, everybody? This is Alex,
I'm Ryan.
and we are going to be reviewing Mirror's Edge Catalyst today.
This is going to be a new segment for our channel.
Yep, release and review, just to be able to review some new games as they come out. Obviously, we'll cover some retro reviews in another section, but we'll try to keep up to date with all the more popular hits releasing right now here. So, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, I was very excited for this game because I played a lot of the original. Ryan, you did not.
I haven't played Mirror's Edge or the new one. I just know the general idea that it's a parkour game. But other than that, that's about it.
Yeah, so part of this is going to be me pretty much filling Ryan in and in the same time kind of telling everybody out there, all of you folks, about it because I got to rant about it a little bit. I just finished playing it last night. Yeah, I got to tell the world. Got to tell the world how I feel. I don't feel very good. I don't feel very good about it. But Mirror's Edge, the first game when it was released, I think it was released around 2008, 2009, I don't remember exactly right now, but it had a lot of hype around it when it was first being released, and like it was the first ever parkour / free running game. It was the very first of its kind. It had only just now been possible to do it with the technology that we had to be able to do it justice and be able to make it look as great as it did. So I got really hyped for the release. I saw it in magazines, I saw it on websites, I got really excited, I got the game, I enjoyed it. Had good memories, replayed it once or twice a little bit, got really excited for the new one when they announced it, and as it got closer, I got pretty excited for it.
And the thing that I do know about it is, after it came out and this whole parkour kind of genre kicked off, there was a lot of games that kind of imitated and added stuff to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, some more, some less. Like, some elements of jumping around and traveling on rooftops was used in Assassin's Creed. Obviously, games that used it way more directly are games like Brink and Dying Light. Brink was not very well received, but I might go back and touch on that one in the future. So it was really interesting to see that Mirror's Edge 2 was going to come out. Well, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, it wasn't. It was never said to be a direct sequel, because now other games are using the same features. They're pretty much they're like, oh, we're also parkour. So now, with Mirror's Edge, it was all free running and parkour. It's like, well, now what's going to make it special? If every other game, well, not every other game, all the other games are also using essentially the mechanics that they innovated. So they have to kind of keep relevant with it. But no, I was still excited for it. I got into the closed beta and was very pleased with it from what I had played. So I would look forward to it. I ended up trading in some games to get a credit towards it, so I picked it up last week. And I finished it up last night, and I went and traded it in already.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds good.
It's not as bad as I'm making it sound. This isn't just going to be a shit fest. I do think that there's some good stuff to it, but it just kind of left a bit of a bad taste in my mouth, and I'll jump into it.
Are we going to start off with the positives here? Like, what exactly did you like about the game?
I mean, just talking about it always looks beautiful. Like, I mean, yeah, it's very bright. It could be kind of hard on your eyes because there's just a lot of white in the shot at all times almost. But it still looks beautiful. The graphics are great. Like, the graphics were already great at their time for the first one. The graphics are just as great for their time now. Like, they're definitely putting a lot of detail into it. There are some parts where it's iffy. Like, some models are a bit off. Like, I noticed that Faith's hair always looks really weird. Faith is the main character. Oh, yeah. Just little things like that, but overall,
you gotta have faith, the faith.
I mean, I can't complain too much about the visuals. I think it was still very nice. The only thing I could really complain about it, which I can get into detail about later, is that everything just kind of blended in together. Also had some frame rate issues at times. I was playing it with my roommate. Well, he was watching me play it the other day, and he was noticing the frame rate issues as well. It just kind of made it look bad, but I guess that happens. I mean, I couldn't make a game that had no frame rate issues, so I can't say much.
I couldn't make a game.
Period. The audio there's no complaints about the audio. Sound effects are proper. Good background soundtrack. There was a original song done by the indie band Churches, and they released an original song that you can listen to in like your home base, and it's kind of nice. It fits the game while still being an independent song that you can listen to on the radio. I mean, other than that, there are some odd good things here and there, but I might as well jump into some complaints about it.
Yeah.
As I was saying about the visuals and like all the stuff blending together. So the new game brought in open world, and that was obviously a very good idea because most games are open world.
Yeah,
nowadays.
open world is the thing to do.
Yeah, definitely, and
Thanks, Bethesda.
yeah, exactly. I mean, every game is open world. Like all the new racing games
Yeah.
are open world, even. And Ubisoft just announced Steep. We're just coming off of E3 here, and that's open world for a snowboarding game.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're gonna get more hype about that later. Open world was a good idea to go with the Mirror's Edge. And I think it wasn't that the idea of open world was bad or that they executed it poorly. It was just the visual style of the game makes it blend all together. Because like 9 times out of 10, you're on the rooftops.
So it's kind of hard to know where you are.
Exactly. It's the problem with the world is that everything blends together because everything is so bright and there's no way to distinguish anything because you don't have, regular buildings. Like it's like you don't have any shops, you don't have any houses. You're on top of these shops and houses.
Plus, you just get a glare from like the sun.
Exactly. Like everything, like all the buildings are so bright and the sun's just there. Just like the constant theme of the visuals is glare.
Yeah.
You get glare off of everything. So I mean, it makes a very bright game. It makes it hard to concentrate if you have eye problems or if you get nauseous and stuff like that. It's hard to focus on.
Plus, I could see how you would just have a hard time knowing where you are.
Exactly. It was because
you just kind of get lost.
Yeah, there's there's no indicators. Like, there's runner's vision, which has like this little red stream, and it shows you where you go, and it'll light up certain like posts and certain like little vents and stuff like that you can jump off and spring off of to swing around and do your parkour shit to get from point A to point B. But there's no indicators of where you are. I mean, you can check the map. The map is just plain. It's very simplistic. It doesn't really have a lot of detail. And then if you put in a waypoint, it just kind of like shows you a little red path, but that's about it. The only place you can really get to anywhere is by putting on your waypoint. You're only putting on your waypoint to get to certain mission markers on the map, and even then they're hard to find because the whole map just kind of fucking blends together. It's just not very satisfying. Like in GTA, you would get to know where all your shops are and where the gym is and where
like follow where all your settlements are. Your main cities.
Exactly. I can't find shit in Mirror's Edge. I can't find fucking shit. Like it made sense to do it because they had to change it up and not just be like drop you into a world and do a course. But it didn't work well for the art style.
Okay.
Yeah, so open world, hit or miss. I'm leaning more towards the miss.
Yeah, it doesn't sound that great.
Yeah, but I mean, they had to do it. That's hard to navigate. It definitely does open up your freedom. It gives you the freedom to run around to technically wherever you want. I mean, if you can figure out where some particular waypoints are, I mean, you might get used to a little bit where your main hideout is, the lair, and you might get used to where like some paths that lead away from it that are typically in the right direction of some missions. But other than that, it just all blends together. It's ridiculous, and I mean, you go towards certain missions because basically in the world there's not just story missions, but there's also like little random jobs, like there's time trials.
Okay.
The time trials thing sounded like a really good idea. As one of the features that they were trying to push. It's like not only are there time trials that are just built into the game that you try to beat, but there are also time trials that people can create. It's like you just you press an option. You're like, I'm going to create a race, and then you run.
You go from one point to the other point. Right?
Exactly,
Okay,
and
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and the courses that they made are actually pretty cool because they don't restrict you to do one certain path. They encourage that you're like, hey, change it up. See if you can find the shortest possible path so that you can beat the time. Like maybe somebody's going to like run around the side and go pipe. Maybe you can vault over a certain small little lip in the building and vault yourself up faster.
Okay.
Those add a little bit of replayability, but not much. Like if you're looking for a break from the main story, the only things you're really going to get is...
You can't have an entire game based around it.
No, exactly. And obviously it's not the whole focus of the game, but... So, like, if we're talking about side missions, so, like, Borderlands side missions.
Yeah.
Borderlands is probably one of the best games that does side missions at all. Like, period. Because it's usually given to you by familiar characters, and it usually actually expands on the story. I was actually talking to my roommate about this. It's like, Borderlands side missions help you get to know other characters better. It's not that you need to do it as part of the story. It's not part of the story. This is all gravy. But it's really satisfying. It's either you're doing it to learn more about a character or you're doing it for some swag, or both.
Yeah, well, I can actually touch on that because I've recently played the new Doom game, and there is side missions in that one, and it doesn't really add to the story a lot much.
No, so just kind of
But-
like busy work.
Yeah, it'll be things like kill this many demons in this long, which is okay, but you get upgrades and you get points and stuff like that. Like, you get stuff that actually help you as you go.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of works for that because the storyline is shoot. Like, there is no story.
Yeah.
in Doom.
For something like
So it kind of
Doom,
it kind of
gets
works
weird.
there, and it actually adds it pretty well to the levels because it is a nice little change from the insanity.
Yeah. The problem with Mirror's Edge's ones there is that it doesn't sound like there's much variance in the Doom ones. There's not much variance in the Mirror's Edge ones either, but it's not really that fulfilling. Like in your main story, you're actually progressing through different situations. So these side missions here, they don't really feel like they're adding anything to your experience. They just feel like busy work. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, you do gain experience from it, like what it sounds like you get in Doom. You get points towards upgrades. I did very little side missions because I got bored of them after like the first 2 hours,
Yeah, like,
and
I know-
I got all my perks just fine.
Yeah, like I never got bored of the Doom ones because the perks you can only get through the
Okay.
side missions.
Yeah, and that
And the
makes
side
sense.
missions are actually fun.
Yeah, it makes sense if like if you only get certain perks by doing the side missions in Doom, or if you only get certain
And
weapons
also,
by doing
every
the side
side
missions
mission
in
is
Borderlands.
different.
That's nice. See, in Mirror's Edge, there's only like one type. It's run here to here. It's either run here to here fast enough, or run here to here fast enough while not taking damage. Or at random points in the world, it's just like press X to interact with something on the wall,
Yeah.
and that's a collectible. Like you collect little blips in the sky as it's like data leaks, or like you rip a chip out of the wall to be like, oh, I'm taking some data here.
Yeah, so
It's not really fulfilling.
It doesn't really add to the story at all.
No, it doesn't add to the story. It doesn't add to the gameplay. It doesn't add to like the experience. It doesn't add to your enjoyment because it just feels like they're trying to keep you busy to be like gameplay. This game's long. Look at how long it's taking
Yeah.
you. It's like this isn't even like gravy. This is all just like shit sauce.
Yeah.
It's like covering my experience. After a while, you're just like, oh, fuck it. So I'm gonna go back to the story.
Yeah.
And the story is
Speaking of the story, how is the story?
the story's meh.
Okay.
So like
Meh out of 10.
meh out of 10. The original Mirror's Edge was just like, the story is that like these people that are doing all the running on the building and stuff like that, they're technically they're couriers, but also they're kind of like an underground resistance against the perfect future type thing.
Okay.
Like basically
typical dystopian.
typical futuristic dystopian, not apocalypse thing. So like any game that's not an apocalypse is usually controlled by an evil corporation.
Yeah.
So this is evil corporation. There's just an evil corporation that's controlling everything and like making
Doesn't
people be
sound-
like perfect little world type
Doesn't
thing.
sound that unique. Typical run-of-the-mill
Yeah,
story.
exactly. It's not very unique. So you're underground because of course you are. You're the protagonist. You're not going to go with
No,
with the
you
flow.
Fight the man.
Fight the man. Yeah, it's not that much of a change from the original, like that you really think it's that much different. Like, I can't believe I waited 8 years for this. What a great story. No, it's just like, oh, here we go again. But that's kind of what they aim for. That's what they want to base their game around. And, I mean, it's not that it's bad. It's just they're doing it a second time. They needed to change it up, and they didn't really. And the story even reflects a lot of the same things from the first one, like, oh, you have to follow, you're like avenging your family and stuff like that, and you're fighting an evil giant of the corporation and stuff like that, and then, oh, they made it personal by attacking a friend or something like that, or they kidnapped somebody.
Oh no.
Oh no! And it's just like that. And another problem with it is like, so the story mission, you just get a story mission one by one. That makes sense. The main side missions, the ones that are given to you by like actual NPCs, well, not any NPC, like characterized NPCs. Like there are faceless NPCs that'll give you little side missions, but like the main one in the beginning of the game is like your friend, and he gives you like a side mission or two, but they're still just mostly just run from point A to point B. There's usually a little bit more interactivity with it, but they also don't add to the story. They also just act like busy work. Literally, like, I mean, it's a proper side mission with characterization, so you do get like voice work, but basically it's just like your main boss is like, Faith, what are you doing? And then your friend's like, oh, she's helping me out. It's like, oh, don't stick around too long. Get back to the story. So just like, I don't care again. It's like, it makes me, it's almost like the game wanted you to only care about the main story, which is a really bad decision because the main story's not that long. I mean, I got it done in 5 days and I didn't even sit down and play it hardcore.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I played it maybe for like 3 or 4 hours before last night. And then last night, obviously, I sat down and played it for like 6 or 8 hours, something like that, to plow through it.
Yeah.
But
Not
it's
a long
just
game.
no, and I mean, it's not like all games nowadays are longer.
No.
Like, we're still kind of in the trend where it's like, oh, it's more about the experience and the graphics and the fancy features rather than the longevity of the gameplay. If you want a long game, buy a JRPG type thing, or any RPG really. I guess you get a lot of hours out of Fallout, Borderlands, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's just too short, obviously. But I mean, I didn't expect a long story going into it. But also, just the side stuff is, like I was saying, it's just busy work. You don't want to actually go back and play it. There's no replayability. Like, you can go back and you can beat some high scores. You can go back and you can just complete a couple of fucking errand boy shits. But it's nothing that makes you want to go back. When I beat the story, I ran off a building and killed myself and then turned off my console. But the story gets kind of meh. But I'll save that for the end because it's the end of the game and it'd be appropriate if it came at the end of the video.
Yeah.
I mean, there were new features added, but very, very few. Like, they added in a grappling hook. It's like on your wrist. You kind of like shoot up and you grapple to it. So you can either grapple to a high point and then just jump on a ledge, or you can use it like a swing. You can like fucking Spider-Man it. They were kind of cool, but they weren't real. They were kind of few and far between. Like, they were mostly just in like the story
It's
missions.
not game changing.
No, exactly. Like, I mean, there were some paths. Like, once you carved out a path to like a different area of the game, if you had to backtrack, you would have to use those. So it wasn't like they would randomly place it and then you could either like run up a side, like you could either go up a building regularly, like by finding ledges and wall jumps and stuff like that, or you could use this grappling thing. It was like, yeah, the grappling thing is only here because there is a 50-foot hole and you can't get around it any other way.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it does change up things. I think it's a good addition. It was just okay, though. It wasn't
executed
anything
better.
groundbreaking. Yeah, it could have been executed better. It wasn't like I was just like, Mirror's Edge Catalyst, so good because it has the grappling hook. This is the greatest thing. Like, it's not going to make you go back and play the game like how people go back and play Spider-Man 2 for the swinging and stuff like that. Speaking of Spider-Man, like, it's not gonna make you really drop your jaw and say, wow, this game is going to be remembered forever because
perfect.
fucking beautiful.
Love it.
And they refined the combat from the last game as well.
Yeah, because wasn't there issues with the combat in the first game?
Yeah, the combat wasn't very fluid, and people are also upset about the addition of guns because, well, I mean, there was a challenge for completing the game without ever shooting a gun. That's what most people did, and most people felt like it was a legitimate experience by not using guns, but there's frustrations with not using guns. Mainly the fact that the opponent has guns. So the combat got really frustrating because it's fine for doing hand-to-hand combat, and I'm not saying that I don't want them to have guns because that's pretty unrealistic. Of course, to enforce the perfect world, they're going to have guns.
Yeah.
But it's really frustrating because they're shooting at you. Like, I'm running here and they're shooting at me. And the game's like, oh, well, you should do your dodge mechanic to avoid getting shot. But it's a strafe. And the way that the strafe works is instead of, like, just moving from left to right and being able to avoid bullets, you basically strafe in a 360-degree angle from the very point that you're looking at right now. So instead of just like holding my trigger and then pushing from left to right, instead of it just kind of like adjusting my path forward, I'm stopping in spot and I'm starting to like circle strafe around.
Pretty much running in a circle.
Exactly, I'm running directly in a circle. I've stopped my momentum. I'm not actually getting away from anybody. I'm just fucking swerving. And I mean, I could use that to swerve a bullet. Because once they pull the trigger, that's going to be going towards me. If I strafe out of the way, I probably have time to avoid it. But it doesn't make sense. So you don't do it because you're not breaking your momentum. And because the game does do a really good job building your panic when you get into combat situations. So when you're in the heat of the moment, you're really panicked. You're not thinking about stopping and strafing. And the whole game is about keeping your momentum as well. There's a bar for keeping your momentum. And as you build it up, it grants you not invulnerability, but it grants you extra health before you actually start to take damage. Mm-hmm. So it gets really frustrating. And the game tells you, most of the time, the best way to get out of deal with combat situations is to avoid them. So they're like, use your light strike while you're running towards somebody, just kind of push them out of the way, or do it while you're jumping to kind of like tackle them down and keep on running. They say that, and then they drop you into a situation where it's like, you're locked off from going anywhere. Kill these 6 guys. 3 of them have guns. So I'm just in like a dome, and they're shooting at me. So how do I take down, like, and I have, so like, even if I take down the guys that are rushing me, that's fine. I can deal with the guys that are rushing. But with the combat, all of the moves lock in a certain animation that the game has to finish processing. So like if I strike somebody, it locks me into an animation with him that has to go through its whole entire motion and go through all of its frames. It's not that it's bad coding, it looks good, but it's like, it seems
if it screws with the game though.
Yeah, it
fucks with the gameplay.
It does fuck with the gameplay because it's not fair.
Yeah.
Like it seems counterintuitive to say, oh well, they shouldn't be able to shoot you while you're punching somebody else. Like that isn't how it happens in real life, but that doesn't mean that it's fair. And when you're in a scenario where you're playing the game, you want to be able to feel like you can play the game properly and that you're not hopeless. Because like if somebody is rushing me, I don't really have an option except but run away, because if I stop and fight them, I'm going to get shot. The only way that I can take out anybody that's shooting at me is to go run up to them and take them down. So it's like I can run straight at them and get shot, or I can strafe around in circles and never reach them, or I can run away and I still get shot while I'm running away. There's no way to take no damage in this game. There's probably an achievement for not taking any damage. That would be ridiculously difficult. I'm sure there's a way, but the game is basically designed to make you eat damage. It's like you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're going to get
just annoying. Like you're not going to enjoy yourself playing that game. We're not going to play that game again.
Exactly. It was getting very frustrating near the end when they would drop me into a room of 10 enemies and they're just like, try to find your way out. We're going to turn off runner's vision so you don't know where you're going. And we're just going to drop you into a room with 10 enemies, and 4 of them are going to be shooting at you from afar, and 6 of them are going to be rushing you, and then we're going to drop into mini-boss near the end of the fight. You have a way of dealing with it, but it gets really stressful and not in a good way. It gets stressful in a, this is so unfair and I want to get this done with because I hate it, not in a, intense situation, I'm going to use my wits to get out of it.
Yeah.
So it's...
like, it's okay for a game to be difficult, but...
yeah, it's not even that it's like a difficulty curve, you can deal with it, but you don't feel good. It's not like, oh, I dealt with it because I have immense skills and I really pay attention and I'm good at this game. It's like, I got through it because I fucking dealt with those annoyances and I'm really frustrated with this game right now. And that might sound like complaining. Maybe I should get good, but it doesn't feel fair. And then it ends up not feeling fair again near the end because they'll drop in this, it's like a mini boss type thing. Mm-hmm. It's like an enforcer or something like that, a protector. He has
like a heavy armor.
Yeah, heavy guy. So he has a lot of armor. The only way you can hit him is with damaging strikes. That's fine to deal with. He has lots of big rushing attacks.
Yeah.
That's fine because you have your strafe mechanic. They only drop this guy in when you're meant to fight him one-on-one. So you can deal with it and you use your environment to your advantage and you mostly deal heavy strikes, but you can get some light strikes under the right circumstances and you can deal with them. But his attacks are fucked. He has these like rushing attacks, like a Superman punch and like a spinning 450 kick that just really rush at you, and they have a really ridiculously unrealistic hitbox. Like if you are anywhere within like a 180 degree spectrum of his vision here, like if you're anywhere in front of his face and you're within like 2 or 3 feet of him, he'll always connect.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to strafe backwards out of the way, which is fine to deal with, but just sometimes it connects when it feels like it shouldn't have. And sometimes his animation goes off even when you're attacking him, which makes it frustrating. Now that's just a problem where, oh yeah, I'm going to learn how to deal with this enemy and then it'll be fine. However, near the end of the game, when you're like, the end of the game is like you're running up this tower and then the big bad guy seeks 2 of these guys on you at the same time. This is fucked. Now this is frustrating. As soon as you're going against 2 of these guys, you're in a big open room, almost like a dome. There's maybe 1 to 2 little counters that you can use for like separation or advantage. And then as soon as the game starts, like as soon as you're in control of your character, they'll immediately rush you with a hit. Now when you get hit by these heavy guys, you do a roll backwards. Now remember what I was saying about none of the other enemies stopping when you're locked in an animation. So this one guy will start to punch you and the way that they start up is they will have already started to throw this punch before you're in control of your character.
Yeah.
If you don't dodge on frame 1 that you get in control of your character, you get hit. When you're rolling backwards and you're getting up, one of the other ones has already started his attack. So you will literally take 2 to 3 hits immediately if you do not immediately press your strafe button as soon, like literally almost frame 1 of this very starting of that fight. And it's very unfair because you're trying to get in close, and because of the way that the combat mechanics works, you can only fight one of them at a time. So if I go to try to throw a strike on one of these guys and they take a fucking shitload of damage, I had the perk that gave me dealing more damage to them, it still took a shitload of time. I'm trying to hit one of them, the other one comes up from behind me and Superman punches me in the back of the head, I roll backwards, the other one that I had already hit, he's now recovered, he fucking comes at me with a fucking spin kick and he hits me if I don't roll on frame 1 of getting out of my, my damage motion. And then it just gets out of hand from there. It steamrolls you. Like, you're gonna take like 2 to 3 bits of health if you just like get nicked one time, and then it's in the 2v1 fight that the whole I'm 2 or 3 feet away from his fist, but I still took the damage thing really gets annoying. So that was really frustrating, and it's the final boss of the game.
So the final boss is just 2 mini bosses.
Yep. And then it plays And then it plays a cutscene where you continue to the top of the building, and spoiler alert, you get up there and you're that's when you chase the head of Krugersek, which is the big guys that control the whole entire thing, and it's revealed that he's adopted your sister when you guys were little, and each of you were told the other one was dead, and then your sister's like, no, I'm not gonna let you kill him, but then I'm not gonna let him kill you. And it all eventually ends with the 2 sisters fighting, and this is all in animation. This is all cinematic. And then eventually, like, the building starts to fall. Gabriel Kruger fucking dies, falls out of a plane. You and your sister live. Your sister goes on to be head of the corporation, and she's evil. So that's
definitely trying to get another game out of this.
Yeah, they are trying to get another game out of this, and that whole entire ending thing was all cinematic.
Yeah.
The last thing I did in the game was I had a really frustrating, unfair, cheap as hell fight against 2 mini bosses, just 2 separate mini bosses, and that was the end of the game. That's what I got for sinking, 8 or 10 hours into the whole entire game. That's what I got for, I didn't spend money on it, I traded in games. That's what I got for trading in 6 or 8 of my games for. I got 2 mini bosses put together, and that's it. I didn't get to fight the main antagonist who I'd been pursuing throughout the whole entire game. It didn't even pull a swerve, and I didn't fight my sister. I didn't do anything. The game ends, and I didn't do anything. I climbed this giant fucking tower.
Yay.
The tower was kind of fun to climb. Yeah, yay. The tower was kind of fun to climb, and honestly, I think the last level was really, really fun, except for the completely unfair rooms of being dropped into a dozen enemies, and I can't progress until I beat the enemies. So, the ending felt like a kick in the dick.
Yeah.
The ending felt like it didn't matter at all. It's like it doesn't. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't win. I stunned a couple of bad guys. I threw them on the ground, mini bosses, people who didn't have characters.
Yeah.
I didn't take down Gabriel Kruger. I didn't fight my sister. I didn't do anything. That was all cinematic. The game did that for me. The game played itself. I got played. The game played me.
Yay. So pretty much what I'm getting from this is the game had potential and just fucked it.
Mostly. The gameplay is still good. It's still enjoyable. If either for some reason you didn't play the original Mirror's Edge and you wanted to feel what it was like, or if you play the original Mirror's Edge and you just kind of want a bit more of the same, it's fine. But it's just not. It just doesn't feel fulfilling. Playing when you first drop in, you first start playing the game, and when you really start to learn how to control your character, you start to learn how to do all the runs. You start to learn how to do all the wall jumps and the game mechanics, the running mechanics, are satisfying. The story's not satisfying. I also forgot to mention that all the characters are fucking dicks.
Yeah.
I hated all the characters. Other than the head of your little crew or your little dad figure, everybody's just a dick to each other. The characters, I don't really give a shit about the characters. Yeah. Faith doesn't do much to really endear herself either. Especially where her character in this game is pretty much the same character as in the first game, which makes sense because it turns out that this game was a reimagination of the first one. Apparently, it was supposed to like. I thought that
So
it was
like a reboot.
It's a reboot.
Yay!
It's a reboot.
It's the new Ghostbusters of Mirror's Edge.
So, like, it had been 8 years since the first Mirror's Edge, and
Yeah.
there was only one Mirror's Edge. It didn't need a reboot. You should have either continued the story, or I thought that they were supposed to do a pre-sequel with this. I thought that Catalysm was supposed to be a pre-sequel. It was a reimagination, and this is something that I should have realized from the beginning when your sister was instead named Kat, and she was, like, separated from you when you were a kid, because in Mirror's Edge 1, your sister's Kate, and she's a police officer. And actually, that was a really cool dynamic because Faith is an underground runner. Kate is part of the police. So there's like kind of constantly clashing there. It's like, I don't want to piss off my sister, but also... Yeah. Wow. Conflict. Wow. Instead of just like, how dare they try to make everything perfect. It's obviously for monetary gain. Let's fight against it. Oh no, I stole a piece of information from them and now they killed my friend. Why would they do that? I gotta avenge that. I find the story is kind of is a step down from the first one even, and the first one wouldn't even have like a stellar story either. So I already heard people trashing on the story before I even bought it, but I was still gonna play because I still enjoyed what I liked of the demo or the beta. Because now there's no more demos anymore; it's all betas, and you're special for getting into a beta. But anyway, that's bullshit. And this is kind of bullshit. I guess I'm just more upset about it because I waited 8 years for this. And Mirror's Edge, I was very excited as a teenager when it came out, so I always wanted a new one. And there was so much hype I created about it in my mind. And then it was just like, when you want a sequel, you do want just more of what you already played, but at the same time, if you just get straight up more of what you already played, there's not going to be anything that makes you feel good about it. It's like, why did I spend more money on this? Because it's what I already played. And I mean, it does add other things, like open world, it added the grappling hook, it added time trials, but I mean, none of that's actually exciting. The open world's nice if you just want to run around, dick around. I do that a lot in open world games. I'll just run around in like GTA or something like that and do whatever I feel like, but...
Well, from what I've gathered with Mirror's Edge is the open world's like, hey, run from here to here, run from here to here.
Yeah, and just the repetition is what really kills it. Like it
seems like it gets boring after a while, and when you get bored of a game, there's just no replay value.
Exactly, and I mean that happens to a lot of open world games. Honestly, I'll admit that to me it happens a lot more because I just get tired of doing the same stuff over and over. Mirror's Edge is especially bad for it, I find. Yeah. Like there are games that are open world that I can go through and complete all the side missions with, and I'm still having a good time, like Borderlands or like GTA. But like with this, I'm just like, I can only run from point A to point B so much. Yeah, it might be a slightly different point A, a slightly different point B, but I mean, also going back to the fact that everything looks the same and everything's all just blends in together. It's like it's not interesting at all. Basically, if I had to sum up the game in like a minute, it'd be like, it's really fun when you jump into it. Have a lot of fun. You're running around. It's pretty crazy. Good adrenaline rush. Feels really good. Then you get into the story, and you're just like, meh. You do some side missions. I'm just like, boring. Getting sick of this. I don't wanna. So you go back to the story. It's just like, let's just get it over with. But that's about it.
Sounds fun.
It was fine. 6 out of 10. Maybe 6.5. I don't know. It was fine. It was not worth 8 years of wait. And I think that's going to do it for the first release and review. It was fun, and hopefully maybe we'll do some more of these in the future.
Yeah, hopefully.
Going to be a blooper reel that we're going to release.
We have quite a lot of content for it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's likely going to be a link there. And then you can also link back to our main page of Bubba Inc. and check out some other content and some Intoxic Gaming.
You know, if you like some of our stuff, feel free to pound that motherfucking subscribe button.
Exactly. Just imagine us rambling while drunk, and that's our other content. Go check that out, and we're going to have more in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Peace.
Have fun with your lives.